Okay, it's working. Okay, welcome back everyone. I've got an hour before I get busy. So I thought I would show current iteration deck. This makes it worse. It's warmer. Okay, so I think I'm gonna put that back on. We should flatten out the cards with a book or something. Streamer tech. I think I'm a little low on lands as well. A lot of things happening. And I don't know what I said, what I didn't say. But let's take a look at it. So here is a display. As I state multiple times, I like to put my cards in ways that every time I get to analyze the deck differently. For example, you can make pockets of 7 cards. Open your hand with 7 cards, see what you like, put it away. Open another 7, put it away, open another 7, put it away. If my calculations are right, you should be doing that about 14 times. And then you can look at 14 cards and say, okay, well, if I have this and a wheel, I get 14 cards. If I look at all of this, am I satisfied? That's just one way of looking at it. You could look at 33 cards at a time and just see what a third of your deck would give you. You can separate permanent types, color types, curve. You can start, you can, there's no limit to what type of different piles you can make, and I would encourage you to make them. In this case, we have piles of 20. Piles of 20, or approximately, because I worked on it. But when I first open, and it could be a little off, but let's pick these up here. When I first took my first 20, I was working on my deck and I had separated them in piles of 20 for, I don't know, just maneuverability. And then when I opened this, it was, of course, more confused, but it looked like all good stuff. All good stuff. All stuff that I would start with. All stuff that I would be encouraged to play. Where are those coming from? When you look at this in your hand, you're like, well, that's what I want to play, right? I don't think there's anything here that I wouldn't want to play. And the proportions of it felt right. I did since move some things around, but the proportion felt so right. It was so good that I said, let's try to make five piles like that. So that's what I started doing. And I noticed a few things. So first 3 of the WinCon cards, right? And this is the combo right there. This is the main combo. Probably the best combo. Or can I say that with my experience now? This is the best thing you can do with Jhoira. This exactly. It's so easy to assemble. And it gives you your whole deck. And then you just get to end the game. So 3 of the win cons, which we have more of here. Then I noticed a tutor. I was like, yeah, that's good. Out of 20 cards, 1 tutor. Like, especially if you have like win cons in your hand or through the 20 cards. Because 20 isn't a bad number. You're drawing 7. You probably are going to wheel or draw another 7 and then get to another 7 at some point or through the storm. 20 is a fine number. What do you want to see out of that? Possibly 3 pieces that needs to be countered. A tutor to help you finish that. Here we call cantrips, or bettering your hand, as I call these looters. Looters, okay? And Frantic Search. Love Frantic Search. Stars, Sphere, great stuff. So these are cantrips, or I haven't found any better names for them. Then a mass draw. You know, a mass draw spell. We don't want too many of them. You know, wheels here, retract, displacement wave. And a little bit the same with tutors. We may not want too many of them as we view so many things in our deck. Is it preferable to fall on winning game pieces or tutors to find the main ones? Well, that's a personal choice. I think it's also in resource management. Then we have this here. You'll excuse my eczema. So this is removal, and we have counters, as you would see. So here they are, the two counters. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And I may have started with 2 here and 2 here. So 2 counters, 2 removal. That's 4 pieces out of 20. That is 1 out of 5 cards. That's not bad. You know, to be dealing with stuff. Ramp, 4 of them. I think that makes a lot of sense. 4 out of 20 cards. Again, 1 out of 5 card is a ramp spell. Most of them drawing you a card with Jhoira. A fine cantrip. And then 4 lands. And 4 lands does make sense. 4 or 5, depending. I think I was at 5. So 5, it would be 4. 1 every 4 cards is a land, which is a little high if you think about storming. It's not the greatest. And 4 is 1 out of 5 is a land, which seems to make a little more sense. What do you feel, chat? You know? So that's why we're going to see a lot of... That's why we would see piles of 4 and piles of 5. Does the camera catch this here? Piles of 4 and piles of 5. Because 4 seems better for Storm, but 1 out of 4 card is necessary when you open your hand. Or 1 out of 4.5 cards, or is that good enough? With the mana, with the cantrips? Maybe. Okay. I don't want to move the cam too much, but that's just what the lands are. We're going with tutors with lands to Urza Saga, Talaria West. Just because if we can spend 3 mana on Muddle the Mixture, which I put back in, because it's so good at helping us finish the main Breach combo, we're willing to spend 3 doing that, and it is really a good play, then we should be fine with paying 3 over time with Urza Saga, or 3 with the Talaria West. Go get that LED, or maybe an answer, I'm not sure. It's kind of trumping my Fabricate instead of Trinket Mage. Fabricate doesn't have that ring for me. It's so odd. I'm not sure why. I've never felt the need to purchase one. And I feel like I can do more with Trinket Mage. You can just bounce it. I don't know. You can block with it. You can sack it. I don't know if I need Fabricate. Although if the deck truly wants more, cries over not having enough counters or no black for counters, then we should probably play Fabricate. Which people do. So then after laying this out and looking at proportions, we ask other rows, which I hope you can discern, what their proportions are and why are they not the same. You know, because these proportions seems good. You know, like I said, one of those, three of those, three of those, one of those, two of those, two of those, or maybe 1.5 if we have 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. That's 1.5 on average. 3, 4 here, sorry. Lands 4.5. So let's add that up together just to see if we have a 20. They played with it. 4, 8. 8 plus 3.5. No. 8. Let's start 8 point. Let's do 8 plus 3 for now. That's 11, 15, 19. But if we add the 0.5 here, which this row is averaging, and a 0.5 here for the lands which this row is averaging, or getting close to, then we get to 20. And even if we just add a card somewhere, it's we could do a land, just boop, just move that land right there. So the proportions seem right? And then if you start playing with numbers, for example, this is your win con package, your 4 out of 20. 4 out of 20 is 1 out of 5 cards. You know, storming into that, drawing into that, that makes sense. I feel like 1 out of 3 cards might be a little much. But for your analysis to come to at some point, card draw cantrips, looking for things. 4 out of 20. Most of them cheap, prepare, spells, or storm material. 1 out of 5 cards, okay. Here we have 3.5 approximately out of 20, which is between 4 out of 20 and 3 out of 20, right? 3.5, because this is 2 and this is 1.5 averaging. So what's 3.5 out of 20? Well, what's 3 out of 20? What's 4 out of 20? 1/5. 1 out of 5. What's 3 out of 20? 1 out of 6 or something. 7? Closer to 7. So between 1 out of 5 to 1 out of 7, in between the two, 1 out of 7, 1 out of 5, in the middle we meet for 3.5 at 1 out of 6. 1 out of 6 cards is an answer. It's a counter, a removal, you know, something. 1 out of 6 cards. Sounds a little low to me, but we are Storm, we have other things to do. We are also cantripping into them. Just like lands are a little low also, you know. And then 4 here, it's 1 out of 5 for a mana rock. That sounds fine. That sounds fine. And then 1 out of 4 here for lands, or 1 out of 5 is for... Wait. So again, let's do the same thing with lands. 5 out of 20 is 1 out of 4. 4 out of 20 is 1 out of 5. In the middle, for 4.5 averaging, we're at 4.5. So 1 every 4.5 card. How does that fit so well? 1 out of 4.5 cards, or 2 cards every 9 cards. You know, and then you ask yourself, does that make sense? Is that something that makes sense? You know, turn 2, you haven't drawn anything, you've drawn 2 cards, 7 to 9, you're with 2 lands. That makes sense. Okay. Cards have been moved out. I want to show that. Let's talk about that. Took out this. Thought about adding higher quality material cards. We know Tassa's Oracle's high quality card. Took out Mishra everything. Thought of adding Dramatic Reversal. Again, high quality, high quality. Took out Bubble. I put in Sextant, took out Sextant. Took out Bubble. Took out some land. These I'm gonna sell because they're a good price. So I'm just gonna sell them. And took out Hope because I'm not sure how it's gonna play out. Took out Everflowing Chalice because I hate making a colorless mana. We already have enough of that. I much rather have where is it? Much rather have something like this that transform a colorless into a color, which by the way, if you have another creature, you attach it for a colorless, tap that creature, makes a color, then you have another creature, attach it, tap that creature, make another color. So this filters your colorless into colored for as many creatures as you have. Okay, I don't know if I said that earlier, but I think it's a point we just forget. And this is on the battlefield, and we're like, oh no, I have like 5 colorless mana. What am I gonna do? REB I think is very strong, but it's true it's only for blue. Jeweled Amulet I don't think makes the cut, frankly. It is true that it gets your Jhoira out faster, but then it's such a bitch to have to sink more mana into, more mana that we normally use doing things. And the fact that it's not always active, it's active like a whatever it's called, Teferi's Isle or something. That land that like gives you 2 but it phases out every 2 turns. You know, and I'm not playing that, so Felware Stone. So Felware Stone, Narset quality card. Felware Stone we take out because there's too many. I'll come back to this. There's too many 2s, I think. Because recently I've been, you know, jamming cards. I notice I fucking fall again on these stupid artifacts that cost 2 mana. And I have like 2 in my hand. I'm like, oh fuck, this is clunky, man. So I took one out. Do we have more to show? I'll be doing this forever though. Spell Pierce, good card. Some stuff that costs 0. Deck Shredder. Because we have other things, including Grape Shots right here for now. Drift, I thought about putting it. If we're going to pay 3, might as well go get something. But I think we're going to fall on Words of Wind through the drawing all our deck and or getting it out of the yard or something. Brainstorm's out for now. It's too it doesn't give me it put cards back. Urkel because we have other things. Erut is out for now because we're removing all of this. So, and she is more risky. I don't like this. And if we're just gonna go for Sensei's package, we might just put there. But Erut is good with Sensei's Divining Top. Holy Christ, is she good? So and because it's enabling Storm, which I thought maybe that's all I want to do, just pump this lineup. She might come back. She's so good. Remove most of the 2 that gives you some cards. It's often not efficient enough. Snaps here, Cloud Keys here, Moon Silver Keys here. It does get anything, but it does get my artifacts too. Oh no, my bad. It only gets artifacts with mana abilities, so it doesn't even get part of the combo. So I am not pleased with that. Correction in case we need it. Look at these nice islands. Look at these. We got some Innistrad Island, Phyrexian Island, Kamigawa Island, and this is an something island. Rograk in the foil was pretty cheap. Still almost putting Rograk in for drawing a card back, but also activating Mox. But we did put Emery. We will have Ragavan. So maybe we don't need Rograk. Compared to them, he's not doing much. We removed the bird. I even removed the DRC for other cards, but I do think he's fine. I do think I want at least one of those effects at one. We have another filter out in the deck. Remove Containment Construct. These are interesting spells of the sort. I think these are killer spells if you can reduce it by one. If we play Baral, but still we wouldn't want to play just those by themselves without Baral. So, but in a Baral deck, or I don't know, that's good. Windfall, not a fan. Paradoxical cost too much. Okay, that's that. Let's put this here. So these quality cards are so not needed, and that's the issue with them. Even if I put Etherflux in the deck, so sometimes you're going to cast Etherflux and win because you have more mana. Sometimes you're not going to be able to cast Etherflux. Sometimes you're going to cast Etherflux and nothing else. You know, or you don't have the Storm or etc. Out of all of them, it's probably the most playable. Narset, if we would go into the stacks, but if we go into the stacks, when we play Blood Moon and other, like, maybe Back to Basics, some dumb, mean stuff, and people like those two together, yes, it's fine. Is that what we want to do? I think we're no. Do I have anything to say about Narset right now? She would punish blue players. She does help us find things we need for a combo. But you're going to pay 3 to do that. I don't know if I want to do that. Just simply, put simply. Scepter Dramatic. So it is an outclassed combo. And some deck might really like it, especially if you have an output like Urza. You just output your mana right into Urza because you got Urza in the command zone. I think that is a fantastic plan for Isochron Scepter. And probably most of the Urza deck should just consolidate their tech, man. Just play this and the big Ulk, whatever, Kraken, something. Maybe. Who am I? But for us, we don't have a way to do so, and we're gonna end up with a worst Words of Wind. Words of Wind also generating us infinite mana, but also bouncing everybody's shit. And then we don't know what to do with Words of Wind unless we have ways to do something. I think this is gonna be the same with this. Well, I would put Walking Ballista before those because we already have Words of Wind. And Thassa's Oracle, no-brainer. A no-brainer. What a great card. Just draw your whole deck, play Thassa's Oracle, call it a day. You don't have to think. You don't have to do any work. No homework. Class dismissed. But the problem is that if it's countered, you don't have a deck anymore. Or if you have a small pile of cards left, you play Thassa's Oracle, you play other pips first. Problem solved, Mr. Teacher. But Other than that, it's a dead card in your hand, and you are a Storm deck. That means you're going to see it more than once out of 7 times, whatever that number is. Because you Storm, so you're going to see it every 3 games or so, okay? Like twice as much, easily, if not 3 times as much, because you're a Storm deck. So you get this, it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to win, but you also need to do other things, and it just ends up being like, well, which way do you want to win now? Grape Shot, Tassa's Oracle, empty the Warrens? Do you want to wheel everybody? What about Brain Freeze? How about we just cast Words of Wind and just storm the fucking table out of the store? Too many ways to win. No, I do like this, the win list. I think it's very adequate. We have so many ways to win, and we should be utilizing them. You know. Okay, so these, okay, big analysis. Those, so now half an hour in. Those just don't cut it for me right now. Flavor of the month. Okay, let's start with the big one. Mishra's Bauble. I'm going to do my best to re-explain it because I keep re-explaining it to myself and to others, and I may leave some of the juice out. So it's quite the analysis. I don't fault you if you're like, fuck you, I'm playing Bauble. If you're playing Bauble, you gotta be playing this, right? And if we put those together, maybe you'll get a better picture. Let's put all of these together. These are the cantrips. Could put Frantic Search, but it just comes here. I think that's fine. I'm not doing a great job here. Then we have Bauble next. Then we have Bauble. Then we have Bubble. Then we have Sextant. Probably Mishra's fucking here. It depends. Okay. So the main problem I have is in the numbers. So they're fine cards. They'll draw you 2 cards. This will draw you 2 cards with Jhoira. And one of them is delayed, which is fine, especially if you say go, if you're like more of a control combo line. You definitely don't mind. Just play that, draw a card, go, draw a card, moving on. Just extra value, it didn't cost you anything. It was there, it gave you the card. It's fine. The first issue, before I even get to the ranking, the first issue is the numbers. So we have about 10, 12 cantrips in these cards, which is fine, except you do have to have a 100 card deck. And Jhoira has 7 ways to draw cards. Let me find that again, or come back here for a second, chat. Here we are at the Jhoira cEDH Discord. You'll find the thing on Moxfield. So Jhoira has 7 ways to draw. First, we have Jhoira with the deck itself, any artifacts. These are draws. You can choose to have more or less. Sensei's Divining Top combo, which is over there, which is our main combo to draw. And part of that combo, right, with Jhoira, will have you draw more cards and draw cards, just by the way. Wheels also is a way to draw cards. Remora effects. Rice Stick Study, Remora, Bird, Connive Bird, maybe. Mass Bounce. So we have Retract, Filter Out. You can again choose to put more or less of those. We have Tutors, which I put into Card Draw because instead of Card Draw, you could just tutor for your shit and just play it. So I put it there because it got to be considered among this analysis, the 7D analysis, 7-dimension analysis. Cantrips, which we have here and here. And if we start counting our cantrips, because this is big draw, right? Big draw, wheel, Remora, Mass, Bounce, Tutors, cantrips. Right? All of this is cantrips. All of this it falls in that category, you know, whether it be looting, which betters your hand, or simply casting something that gives you a card or two cards. You know, casting some shit, which gives you a card, is not card advantage. It's definitely bettering your hand, but casting one that gives you two is card advantage. But there's a big issue with this card here. It's a dead card, my friends. It doesn't do anything. Right? I mean, the same as Gitaxian Probe. When you have a probe in your hand and somebody's going off, can't do anything. You've got nothing. And that's a choice. That is a choice. I don't fault players who don't play probe and they instead choose something else. It's a choice, but they're probably making a mistake. The thing about probe, which is better than most, is that even though it is a sorcery, which is a drawback, it's probably its only drawback. You get to draw a card right away, and so it gets the advantage, you know, right away. There would probably be a case where someone could argue Mishra's Bauble should get Probe's place here. For another day. So the issues are in numbers. If you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, that's 17, 20 cantrips, you are going to be doing a lot of this to get to Jhoira. Maybe not so much, but then afterwards, in the storm, you're doing a lot of this. There's no way otherwise. You have to be doing this. Because you've got this instead of tutors and counters and mass draw and this or lands or win cards, or you've got this instead. You've got this instead of anything else. So I think that's a little bit of an issue if you have too much. It was the dream though, you know, when I played Jhoira. I was like, oh, imagine play an artifact, draw 2 cards. Play 0, draw 2 cards. Like, yeah, that is the dream. But I think our deck has now gone beyond that. You know, because when you first see Jhoira and you think about this shit, you don't think about all this other incredible spells, right? Because then you would say, oh no, this has to go in. 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 Oh, this has to go in. This has to go in. This, all of this has to go in. And then you end up cutting all your eggs because they don't do anything. You know, instead of 5 eggs, wouldn't you like to have like 4 eggs and 1 counter spell? You know, 1 force of will. Maybe I would like to have a tutor instead of 5 eggs. 3 eggs and a counter and a tutor. Or maybe instead of 5 eggs, I would like 2 eggs and a tutor, a counter, and a win con. Oh, and what about mana? Mana, so you end up with less eggs. It's not hard to cut because they don't do nothing, while these other cards do something. So eggs are cut. Now why Mishra's Bubble? We're just gonna get to that. So I like these two because you don't need Jhoira around, they still work. They're trying to, cantrips are trying to get you somewhere, right? But they're also a good advantage to have, which are free. We could probably cut them, but then at some point, if you don't have any cantrip, just card drop. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's good. I just think that there's gotta be this little burst that you can use for 1 mana, where you draw 2 cards, and that's what they all do, including this. They'll give you the 2 cards right away. Big fan of that, including Frantic Search. So I like that. You know, whereas Mishra's Bubble is anytime that you storm or that you're really trying to get there, you're going to play this, it's going to replace itself, and it's going to tell you draw a card next turn. And if you have to pass and you could have drawn something, I don't know, it's also a nothing. And I feel like instead I would prefer to have a better card draw utility, including bettering my hand type utility, that I can put down and just really better my hand if I'm there, right? Imagine you storm, you're not getting there. Where are you now? Well, at least you've got these, you got this, you got Rhystic Study. You're gonna be in a better position next turn. And because you've invested in good tech, you might be in a better position. The leap in better positioning could be greater, will be greater, between you and other players who didn't do that. Okay. Yep. So these just go. Mishra's research desk I think is fine. It's, for me, it's just one of them. It's I don't like that it exiles 2 of them. Could be exiling something useful. Then you both things useful, and then you have to make a choice. It does need the reduction, and you know, I think it's a fallacy when people think of Jhoira and say, well, you can play things that cost 1 because most of the time it's going to be reduced, and you can play it for 0 and then it does more. But I think the most common scenario is not you having a reducer, but you having Jhoira, because she's in the command zone. So this and Jhoira is much more common than this and a reducer, unless you actively go for reducers for a specific Jhoira strategy. And then I don't fault you, but at the same time, this then becomes dependent on that. It's going to be great when you storm, as you fall onto them, but it should not be dismissed that this costs 1, it doesn't cost 0. For most of the cases where Jhoira's on the field. Gotta move on, gotta touch on a few things. People are gonna want me to get some answers with my phone here. It's blowing up. Wow, this. Okay, all right, chat. We're in business. So additions, subtractions. We've seen them, I think. Additions. We are still with Echo of Eon with LED. I still think that's good. And maybe if Echo used containment and gardens and things like that, screw it. Just maybe these 2 is good. Or Echo has to go. Either that. We're going to be on defense grid. Last Mox Master had it, searched it, played it. I'm gonna go with Grape Shot because I felt like I needed a little more here. Is there really 1? Okay. So I'm going for Grape Shot here as part of the removal package. It's been some time. I'm looking at Grape Shot as a removal spell, and once it goes in the yard, you can get it back again with Breach. You can Words of Wind into an Infinity Storm, and then cast Grape Shot. You can also cast Brain Freeze. But the thing about words currently, for me at least, is you gotta have something else. You know, experimental, or you gotta have something else. Another thing that, let's continue that, then I'm gonna say something magical. Putting back Ether Spellbomb, Termod Script. I prefer Termod over the other one because it's, again, like a cantrip, cost 0, not 1, give me another card. Increasing this package back, I played a cEDH table this week, and the deck was very fast, almost won one game. I was a mana short. It was like brand new for me. I felt like a noob. But I didn't have enough interaction. I don't know. I had a lot of cards missing one mana. I had like a bunch of rocks that cost like 1, and then the other guy won. It's I felt like I was missing interaction. I was missing some counters, some stronger interaction. So package has been increased. Going back to Resculpt here. There it is. Resculpt. Defense grid seems all right. Grape Shot. Filter out. Termod Script for Graveyard, because they fucked with my graveyard and it worked. Really worked. This spell I think is great, because if we're thinking about the 3 last spells, which ones are they all the time? Spell Pierce, this spell, and Miscast. Right? Spell Pierce, non-creature unless you pay 2. Miscast, instant sorcery unless you pay 3. And this spell counter instant. Hard counter. So I much prefer this spell for us as a Storm deck. It's probably something that Storm players know by far already, you know, but you're storming, it's your turn. People are doing things in your turn. You're not worried about sorceries and non-creature spells. You're worried about instants, and this stops it completely. So I really like this spell. Now, putting back Pact for now, but we'll see. I mean, I don't like how Pact is hard to cast turn 1 and 2. Really don't. I don't like how you have to pay for the stupid thing. I like how Fluster Storm can help you not pay for your pack, though. If you make copies of Fluster Storm and one of them targets your own pact and you don't pay it in a counter war, I like that. But yeah, I mean, we're looking at what, 6 more cards here or something. That's fine. And what else did we add here? Grinding Station for now, because it is played, you know, cEDH. I mean, people play it. So like, and they often play it because they don't have Brain Freeze. And people who have Brain Freeze don't play Grinding Station. And I feel like it's still good at what it does. But I get that it can be redundant. It does feel a little clunky. But I believe in Grinding Station. It has something to tell me. No, I'm not spiritual. We're playing Reckless Handling, because if Gamble is good enough, which is here, and it is good enough, Gamble is amazing. Then Reckless Handling should be amazing too, because it gets an artifact, and our primary combo is made out of 3 artifacts. There's no reason not to play it. The only reason I could come up with is if all of this card draw tech has something to do with it, where you don't need as many tutors, possibly. Can't wait to try it and win games with it. You know. Keeping Emery, even though a lot of those are gone. For now. I think Emery is going to be a tech that can bring shit out of the graveyard. So post destruction. So it's kind of like a counter or a dealing with. It's like a counter, you know. It counters your destruction. Let's go back to the deck. What else are we missing? We got 103 cards for now. Grape Shot just something's weird about it. It's always looked a little off. Windfall's gone. Goblin Welder, like Emery, will bring it back from the yard. Do we need 2 of those? I don't know. I did remove the DRC at some point. It came back. We're missing Ragavan. What else? This is all good. This is all good. Missing Mindbreak Trap, which is, it's better at stopping a Storm player than defending one, I think. Because this says if an opponent casts 3, so if you intend to protect your own stuff, it's great at stopping stuff, which means it's probably good along with Force of Will, Force of Negation, Mental Misstep, you know, the 5, Fierce Guardianship, Deflecting Swat. So because it stops Storm, you may want to just run 6 of that effect, cost 0, right? But it's not good at protecting your wins, I think, because it's my turn. Tutor stays. It's always felt off, but we're gonna go get different types of answers with it. Try to make some kind of package. I think bouncing is probably the best for us because it's cheap, and if we can get to win the same turn we bounce, then what's the problem, right? But we do need some exile effect as the game is longer. We do need some destruction. We're still missing currency converter. That's coming. I tried it. Sometimes it flops a little bit, so I'm not sure. Defense grid being something that we don't necessarily play right away and pass. We certainly don't pass. So being an artifact that you don't play is like, what do you do with that? Lands, nothing special. So I think that's it. That's all the time I had, I think. And if we need to cut, it's probably going to be grinding station because the win is still very clean with something else. I want to touch on one more thing, and that is the dream. So I met Taylor Swift in my dream, and I asked her to not let go, and I woke up. That's one dream. The other dream is since this is the best with Jhoira, just go get those, right? Which we do. And people do that. It's like, okay, what do you mean? So we play this. And then what we do after we have our, our ability to draw, we go get Breach and Freeze. Okay. Or Grinding Station? No, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not, especially because of this. Maybe not. Okay. I tried without Freeze. So that means I have this. Maybe Grinding Station. I'm not sure. It's a dream, so it's a little far. And then we find Words of Wind. And then we play Mox Opal. Mana Crypt. Make Infinite Storm and Mana. And nobody has anything on the table. That's the dream. So imagine the situation where you storm a little bit, or you're setting up the storm, then you're drawing all of your deck, then everybody knows shit is about to hit the fan. Drop Underworld, Breach, Grinding Station, or whatever. Get back Words of Wind, slam that thing. Everybody's permanence scatters away like the wind. You get it? Like a storm. Are you fucking... Yeah? Okay. And then Mox Opal, Mana Crypt, they're in your yard. You've milled them. Just get them out. Boom. Gone everything. It feels like a storm. We're about to get launched out of the store. And then Grape Shot. Everybody to hell. Gone, baby. Or Brain Freeze, or whatever. But it just felt like, what is it? A storm deck winning with Words of Wind. And just having everything returned to your hand. Flying off the table. It just made so much sense. It's a little long, but, it's a story. Have a good